you see something coming out of the cave, and it's moving with a speed and agility that catches you off guard. Everybody.
And he comes out. This is a monster.
In 2002, an entire U.S. military patrol vanished deep in the mountains of Afghanistan. When a Special Forces rescue team finally found them, they stumbled upon something so enormous, so grotesquely out of place, that it defied explanation. Within hours, the military buried the story overnight. Officially, it never happened. But off the record, the men who were there tell a very different and terrifying story. What did they really see inside that cave near Kandahar? And why has every attempt to uncover the truth been quietly erased? The whispers call it the Kandahar Giant. For years, it was dismissed as a myth, nothing more than a campfire rumor. Until now, what we've just found may finally prove it was real. The mystery never died. And now, new evidence forces us to confront a chilling possibility, that it was real all along and far darker than we imagined. Don't look away, because what comes next may change everything you thought you knew about what really happened in Kandahar. In the spring of 2002, Operation Enduring Freedom was in full motion. Coalition forces swept through the harsh mountains of southern Afghanistan, dismantling Taliban strongholds and hunting al-Qaeda remnants. Most missions were routine insert, sweep, extract, predictable, until one wasn't. A U.S. Army squad was sent to patrol a supply route near Kandahar, one of the war's deadliest zones. Their orders were simple: clear the path and report in. Hours passed. Then a full day. No radio, no contact. The team had vanished. When communication failed, Command dispatched a Tier 1 recovery unit elite soldiers trained for missions that don't officially exist. They expected to recover men or bodies. Instead, they found something else. The site was chaos, frozen in place. Torn vests, cracked helmets, shredded packs, drag marks etched into the dirt. No blood, no bodies, no shell casings, just silence, heavy and unnatural. One soldier later said the scene didn't look like combat at all. The destruction was precise, deliberate, but with no trace of a fight. Then they saw the cave. It was wide, dark, and unmarked on any map. A beam of light from a rifle lamp cut across stone and caught something pale. Bones. Human. Shattered among fragments of U.S. military gear. Whatever happened here wasn't a battle. It was something fast, violent, and impossible to explain. The Department of Defense never confirmed the mission. No names, no reports, no record. Yet whispers spread through bases and forums, pieced together by independent researchers. Every version tells the same story: a patrol vanished, a rescue team followed, and inside that cave they found something not meant to exist. A mission meant for recovery became a classified nightmare. And that's where the legend of the Kandahar Giant begins. Caves were never friendly ground. Every soldier knew that. Tight spaces meant no clear sight lines, no quick exits, and sound that bounced like ghosts. Still, the team advanced steady, silent, professional. Whatever had dragged those men inside, they had to find it. At the entrance lay the first clues: torn fabric, cracked helmets, shattered comms gear. A rifle barrel snapped clean in half, not rusted, but bent, as if twisted by sheer force. It wasn't combat. It was destruction without reason. The deeper they went, the heavier the air grew, thick, metallic, laced with decay. Then the lights caught something pale. Bones, human bones, long femurs, shattered ribs, skull fragments scattered like debris. Some showed bite marks, others clean crush wounds too large for any known predator. Wolves didn't do this, nor did men. Then one soldier's beam caught a glint in the rock part of an M4 carbine, bent nearly double and lodged in stone. Whatever did this was powerful, and it didn't belong here. Then came the sound, a low scrape stone against stone. Flashlights swung toward the darkness. For a moment, nothing. Then a shape stepped forward, upright and massive. It wasn't an insurgent, nor animal. It stood over 13 feet tall, broad, red-haired, its skin sun-scorched and leathery. Its eyes reflected light like mirrors. In one hand, it carried a spear, crude yet impossibly large. It hesitated only a second before charging. The first strike came too fast. One man, later known only as Dan, was impaled. The others opened fire. M4s roared. Sidearms followed. Then the thundering shot of a .50 caliber rifle. The firefight lasted barely half a minute. When the smoke cleared, the creature was down, but it had taken far more rounds than anything human could survive. The team stood over it, breathless, disbelieving. It was massive easily, 13 to 15 feet tall. Humanoid, but not human. 6 fingers on each hand, teeth like blades. Its blood was darker, thicker, unlike anything they had seen. They called it in. Then, everything changed. Within hours, the site was sealed. New personnel arrived, men in unmarked uniforms. The body was wrapped, lifted by a twin-rotor helicopter, and flown away without a word. The recovery team was debriefed separately, warned to remain silent. And just like that, the story vanished, filed under classified operations, buried beneath layers of denial. What the soldiers witnessed that day would never appear in any report, but among those who were there. One fact remains unshakable. They killed something real, and it was never supposed to exist. The firefight inside the cave was over almost as quickly as it began, a blur of muzzle flashes, recoil, and disbelief. Survivors later said it lasted no more than 30 seconds. But in that half-minute, everything they knew about combat and about reality began to fracture. It started the instant the creature struck. Dan went down first, impaled before anyone could react. Training took over. The team opened fire, M4 bursts, turning the darkness into lightning. The rounds hit, but the target didn't fall. It staggered, turned, and charged again. The marksman dropped prone, leveled his Barrett .50 caliber, and fired. The blast thundered through the cavern. Only then did the creature stumble, collapsing onto the rock floor. Then came silence. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The soldiers held position, weapons ready, waiting for movement. None came. When the light steadied, the shape before them came into focus, massive, human-shaped, but wrong. Up close, it looked almost engineered. 6 fingers, 6 toes, a chest broad and muscular, limbs built for power. Its skin was thick, leathery, and sun-scorched. Coarse red hair clung to its frame, matted and filthy. It wore crude hide wrappings stitched together from material no one wanted to identify. The smell hit next, metallic and rotten. One soldier later said it was like old blood and rusted metal. Its teeth were triangular, serrated like a predator's, and its half-open eyes still reflected light even in death. They estimated it at 12 to 15 feet tall, weighing over 1,000 pounds. Even dead, it seemed to radiate presence, as if the air around it had changed. No one knew what they were looking at. Not a man, not an animal, something else entirely. They called for extraction. The operator didn't ask questions, only coordinates. Minutes later, a helicopter was en route, but something in the tone of command had shifted cold, controlled, as one witness later recalled. They weren't told to prepare for evacuation. They were told to stand down. What happened next? The arrival of unmarked helicopters, the sealed containers. The men in black fatigues would make sure this story never reached an official report. The response came faster than anyone expected. Minutes after the firefight ended, command approved extraction, but the aircraft that arrived wasn't the kind used for medevac. A CH-47. Chinook thundered overhead, its twin rotors slicing the air. When it touched down, the team immediately noticed something off. The men who stepped out wore no patches, no name tags, no unit insignias. They didn't speak. They didn't ask about the wounded. They looked straight past the soldiers and toward the cave. They came for the body. The operators were ordered to secure the corpse on a cargo net as the unmarked crew worked in silence, fast, practiced, clinical, within minutes. The Chinook lifted off, carrying the massive shape into the Afghan sky. That was the last time anyone saw it. Back at base, things shifted from strange to surreal. The soldiers expected debriefings and paperwork. Instead, they were separated, interrogated, and presented with non-disclosure agreements thicker than any they'd seen. These weren't routine confidentiality forms, they were warnings. They were told to forget the mission, forget the cave, forget the name Dan. If you talk, one officer reportedly said, you lose everything. Those who resisted were reassigned or quietly discharged. Those who signed were told the operation never happened. No report, no casualty list, no record in any archive. And yet, whispers began to spread. One medic, unable to keep silent, broke protocol during post-mission checks. He said only 2 words before walking away. It exists. That was enough. Within days, the story rippled through barracks and bases, the tale of a giant killed in the mountains of Kandahar. Officially, nothing had happened. Unofficially, everyone was talking. Rumor turned into legend, and legend into obsession. Still, the question remained if it was all fiction. Why did the government work so hard to erase it? Because if the creature was real and the soldiers who saw it were telling the truth, then somewhere, in a hangar or a lab far from Afghanistan, its body still exists. The silence didn't last long. When whispers of the operation began to surface, official channels moved fast. The Department of Defense publicly denied that any such mission had ever taken place. No missing patrols, no firefights, no casualty named Dan. The story, they said, was internet fiction. But those denials only drew more eyes. Independent researchers began filing Freedom of Information Act requests, searching for anything that could confirm or disprove the rumors missing personnel near Kandahar in 2002, biological extractions, special forces operations in mountain caves. Every response came back the same: no records found. No records. That, to many, was the strangest part. Military operations are always documented, if not for public release, then for internal review. Even Black Ops leave behind flight data or incident logs. But for this mission, nothing existed, not even redacted files. Then, an anomaly. One early FOIA request returned a partial document mentioning a personnel recovery operation near Kandahar in April 2002, the exact time frame of the alleged firefight. The report ended abruptly, mid-sentence, when another researcher filed the same request weeks later. That document was gone. It had either been removed or buried deeper. Fact-checking outlets soon weighed in, labeling the story false, but their counterarguments leaned on the absence of proof rather than the presence of it. One platform dismissed the entire event by debunking details that no original witness had ever claimed. Meanwhile, across separate forums and anonymous accounts, the same descriptions kept appearing: 6 fingers, red hair, a crude spear, the use of .50 caliber fire, different names, same story. If it was all a hoax, it was one remarkably consistent across time and rank. Then came the detail that few could explain: a 24-hour gap in Bagram Air Base's flight records, the very window when the Chinook was reportedly dispatched. The data simply stopped, then resumed the following day. Unmistakable signs of something carefully erased. As silence fell from official channels, the debate shifted from evidence to explanation. Skeptics argued that the Kandahar giant was never real, that it was a fusion of battlefield fatigue, cultural myth, and exaggerated storytelling. On paper, it made sense. In practice, it didn't. The creature described red-haired, towering. 6-fingered wasn't a random invention. It mirrored ancient accounts stretching back thousands of years. In biblical texts, beings called the Nephilim were said to be the offspring of divine and human unions, giants, warriors, and predators of humankind. The Book of Enoch described them as consuming flesh, spreading chaos, and finally being destroyed. The resemblance was uncanny: the stature, the appetite, the violence, the anatomy. But Afghanistan has its own mythology, and it predates the Bible. In regional folklore, the mountains are said to house Dio and Ifrit, monstrous, red-haired giants that dwell in caves, feeding on livestock or wandering travelers. Shepherds in southern provinces still tell stories of encounters in the highlands, where the air thins and shadows linger too long. These aren't bedtime stories, they're warnings. It's possible that soldiers, immersed in an alien landscape and fed fragments of local legend, began to see shapes through that lens, a psychological echo of ancient fear. Combat stress, sleep deprivation, and adrenaline can distort memory, even create shared illusions. That theory fits neatly on paper, but it fails to account for what the witnesses claimed to see and what they physically recovered. Bones, bent rifles, a corpse large enough to require an airlift. It also fails to explain missing records, sealed files, or the enforcement of NDAs. Psychologists might argue that trauma can manufacture monsters, but paperwork doesn't hallucinate. Flight logs don't vanish because of fear. In the end, Mythology might explain why the story spread, but not why it refuses to die. Because myths inspire fascination. Cover-ups create belief. And somewhere between the two, the story of the Kandahar giant continues to breathe. The deeper researchers pushed, the stronger the resistance became. What started as whispers inside military circles soon reached journalists, documentarians, and investigators. Some sought to debunk it, others to prove it. But every effort ended the same way, abruptly, and without closure. One of the first to give the story shape was filmmaker L.A. Marzulli. In his documentary, he featured an anonymous soldier claiming to be part of the recovery team. The man described everything in chilling detail: the missing patrol, the cave, the red-haired giant, and the airlifted body. No photographs, no coordinates, no documents, only the man's words. Yet the precision of his description reignited the case. From there, radio shows like Coast to Coast AM amplified it to millions. Over the following years, others claiming military backgrounds began to emerge, different voices. Same story. 6 fingers, red hair, a spear, no official record. The consistency was uncanny. Journalists tried to verify the claims. Outlets from the Epoch Times to small independent blogs combed through casualty reports from 2002, searching for any soldier named Dan killed near Kandahar. Nothing matched. Either the records were missing, or the names didn't align with the region or date. Some suspected Dan was never the real name, a stand-in for someone whose death couldn't be acknowledged. Online forums like Above Top Secret and Reddit's Our Military filled with anonymous posts from supposed insiders. Most were deleted within hours. IPs traced to disposable accounts, usernames wiped. But the overlap in detail and the persistence of the same narrative across years made dismissal harder. Then, in 2016, something changed. Videos that had circulated for a decade disappeared overnight. Interviews were delisted. Archived blogs returned 404 errors. Even cached pages began to vanish. Veterans who once spoke openly about the incident went quiet. Some retracted their statements. Others said they'd been warned to stop talking. A few simply disappeared from the conversation altogether. By that point, the pattern was impossible to ignore. The Kandahar giant had crossed into that rare territory where myth, classified secrecy, and collective fear intersect. The mystery of the Kandahar giant could be way worse than we thought. After 2 decades, there's still no official record of the Kandahar giant, yet too many details refuse to disappear. Multiple soldiers, from different units and years, described the same event: a missing patrol, a cave, and something inhuman. We know Operation Enduring Freedom was active in the area. We know special forces often worked under sealed orders. We know certain missions and deaths remain unacknowledged. Something happened near Kandahar in 2002. Whether it was a biological anomaly, a classified experiment, or something ancient, it was removed, silenced, and erased. That's the real story, not just a tale of giants, but of how easily truth can vanish behind bureaucracy and fear. So, was it a myth born of war, or a secret buried too deep to surface? Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.